Hey everybody. It has been a while. I have not been on Periscope in about a week and a half. That's way too long. That's like a vacation. So I've been on deadline, writing a book, traveling, and it's going to get a little bit frenetic in the next month or two. So bear with me. I'm going to try to be more consistent about the periscoping that I do. From wherever I am in the world, I'm going to be more consistent. So thank you for putting up with my absence. Deadlines and editors are demanding. They want things when they want them. So thank you for joining. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Narina. I got lots of new people. Thank you for joining me. I want to talk today about mining for ideas. Hey, how are you? Great to have you. Oh my gosh, it's great to have you. All right. I'm going to be, as I was saying, I'm going to be more consistent about these things, but deadlines and travel have gotten in the way, so I promise to be more consistent Tuesdays and Fridays. So today's Tip Tuesday, and I want to talk about mining for stories. Love you back. Oh my gosh, missed you guys. It's nice to be missed. And I'll take some questions if you guys have them. How do you mine for stories? I get asked a lot, and I'm sure many of you do too, or you look for ideas for stories for your business. And maybe, it's always hard to find new things. You scratch your head, you're like, well, I already talked about that topic. I need something new. So let's talk about some ways to come up with new ideas. And some of these you're already probably doing. Some of these you may not thought of. So hopefully we'll hit on some new ways that you can use right away. That's my hope. So if you're not talking to customers, of course you should be. But how about your partners? How about your partners? Do you go back to your partners? What could we do better? What are you guys doing? If you sell products, what are they using your products for? Maybe you sell products that they use in their services. What's going on with their businesses? Ask them what's happening. Ask social media. You should be, hey, what do you guys want to hear about? Look at the patterns on your social media. What stories are getting shared? What are people talking about? What are the questions you're getting a lot of? Patterns. Look for those patterns. I promise you, probably 20% of your content is getting 80% of the shares. That's very normal. So it's the Pareto rule. What's that 20%? What are those topics? What are people talking about? Look at those topics, because those are the topics that are percolating for everybody. Those are the topics that people are like, oh my gosh, I need to know more about that. For me, it's storytelling and it's humor and improv. Those are the big things people ask me about all the time. Take note, make a file, write down all the questions you get. Look for the consistencies. I promise you there will be consistencies. There are some questions that get asked over and over again by your customers. Different wording, same basic questions. So look for those patterns and write about those. Ask yourself, when people go buy your services, go back and ask them, why do you think you need this? Or, what are you using this for? Or why do you stay with me? Why do you come back? I promise you every customer is going to have a different reason for doing business with you. There's probably a story idea on that. I promise you there's reasons for that. The other thing you can do, and I love this, I love to do this with clients, and I do it with my own business, is I map out my business, all the interesting things that are going on in my business. The times I succeeded. Maybe I tried something and it didn't work so well. Why didn't it work? And so I'll kind of plot the highs and lows of my business, whether it's the business itself, whether it's new clients, whether it's speaking engagements I'm doing, or maybe I lost a client, or maybe I tried something experimental and it didn't go well. And the first time I was on Periscope, I couldn't get the camera working, but I wrote about it. All those things, plot those out, because everything you do well is a learning lesson for your audience. You can help them. You can teach maybe something you did really great worked for you, and you can pass that idea on and help somebody else. I think that's a great place to pay it forward. Or maybe you failed. There's a learning lesson in that. We all fail. If you got a human card, and we all do, you fail. I have failed. Write about that and write about what it taught you. What did you learn from it, from that experience? And I talk about when I first started my business, I aimed my business at small businesses, and it was very hard, and entrepreneurs, and it was hard because they didn't have money to pay. And I've written about those experiences, what it taught me about marketing. I've written about the first time, I did stand-up comedy. Oh my gosh, how scared I was. And that was many years ago. That was 15 years ago. I've written about that. What did it teach me? Well, I kept going back. And it was painful. What did I learn from that? I've written about the first time I did improv. Oh my gosh. The first 2 years, I've been doing improv for 12 years. The first time I did improv, boy, that was scary. And then for 2 years, I prayed for the sucking to stop. because it takes about 2 years to find your footing as an improviser. But I didn't give up. And now I learned so much about improv, not just about being funny, but I learned how to take my ability to handle risk and bring that into my business. So I've written about that. So write about the highs and lows in your personal life. Write about the highs and lows in your business. They're personal. Be honest, be human. It's a great way for the audience to bond to you, because as long as you talk about the lessons you learned and in an honest and open way, I think that's great. People will more than happy to receive those lessons. They probably have their own stories too, and invite them to share their stories. I love it when people tell me their stories. If I tell a story about how I failed and what I learned from it, and if somebody reciprocates, that's wonderful to me, because we're all human and we all have those stories. And it can't always be about our successes. To me, I've learned more in my business from the things that I tried, the risks that I took that maybe didn't work out, but then I learned from it and then I did it better the next time. That's wonderful. Those are all great stories. So again, map out those highs and lows, because even the things that you screwed up on are great teachable moments. And what did you learn from it? The successes. What can you teach people? I have a friend who does viral videos. And I have a friend that actually was part of the Old Spice team when they did their original Old Spice videos that went viral with Isaiah Mustafa. And he's written a lot. He's written extensively on what they learned. And they made some mistakes along the way, and then they got it right. And he writes about the successes as much as he does the failures, about how to create videos that are compelling. So anything that you do that you can offer to teach, to help, to pay it forward, those are just amazing lessons that are human lessons for your audience. So take all those as goodness. Your employees, if you have employees, they're going to have their own stories. I have a belief, and I've believed this for many years, and I've worked with a lot of executives. Most executives are not great storytellers. Some are, but some not so much. But the best storytellers are often your employees. They're the ones dealing with the customers directly, front lines of customer service. They're going to have these amazing stories if you ask them. Ask your sales team. What are they seeing? What are people talking about? They're going to have amazing stories. So look everywhere in your organization. You know, when you lose a client, what happened? What didn't you do right? Why did you lose that client? When you get a new client, what did you do right? What did you learn? If, you know, from a speaking engagement that maybe you didn't do a great job on, that's okay. As long as you learn, it's not a failure. Everything in your business, I think, is fodder for great content, for great stories. As long as there's a lesson you're willing to be honest about. I think the only thing about it is that if you're not willing to share and to be honest about your screw-ups, don't go there. Wait until you're ready to do that. It's okay. If improv and comedy have taught me anything, it's to own your screw-ups and be better. So to keep trying, keep going. And eventually, here 15, 16 years later, I'm very comfortable on a stage. But that's because I didn't give up the first 2 years that I sucked. And I was like, will the sucking ever end? I don't know. I hope so. So those times where you're tested and your endurance is tested and your confidence is tested, those are great stories, because everybody has those stories, and you're giving permission to your audience to connect with you and to share those stories too. So I say everything in your business, online, off, your personal experiences, if there's a business lesson, anything in that. I did a one-woman show back in October, and I did this show because I work a lot with businesses, and I'm always telling them to be vulnerable. Be vulnerable. And it's like, well, okay, I can't really give that advice unless I do a one-woman show and I tell my stories. So I gave my vulnerable business stories. I gave my failure personal stories. I talked about my childhood, about experiences that shaped me, and I just sort of really went for it. And for an hour and a half, told 7 different stories about my life and about how they shaped me. And what was really profound is that people came up to me afterwards and said, oh my God, your story was my story. I had a slightly different experience, but so much of what you experienced, I experienced. And it was the emotional glue that connected me to my audience. And it was fabulous. I even had a woman who was in her probably 70s, and she said, can I give you a hug? And I said, well, I'll take a hug. That's wonderful. And her story was my story. It's just, she said to me, you got there a lot quicker, and making peace with it and telling and talking about your childhood and some of the difficulties that you went through in your childhood. So I feel like if you're going to give that advice, you got to take it. So eat your own dog food, so to speak. So the beauty is that there's stories everywhere all around you. Keep a folder one of the things that I do, yeah, I'm a nerd. I am a nerd. Woo woo to the nerds. Love, love to all the nerds. And I keep a folder with all these story ideas. Now, sometimes I don't get to all of them. That's okay. But I go through a lot of them. And sometimes, no idea is ever wasted. I'll come back to an idea and I'll come back and I'll go, you know what? I think that's going to make a really good story down the road. So keep every conversation you have, keep a track of those ideas. When there's patterns that emerge, if you're talking about the same stuff all the time with different people, customers, your network, your brain trust, there's a pattern there. Write about those things. Tell those stories. So tell stories to inspire. Tell stories to inform, to educate, and tell stories to connect. It's okay to be vulnerable, and you just have to know where that line is for yourself. You're not required to share everything. You're not required to open up your kimono and share all the stuff. But if there's a business point in anything that you're making, share it. And I will talk a lot about comedy because of the business lessons that I learned. And it gave me, not only did it strengthen my funny bone, but it gave me a backbone for risk. And that's, I think, a really worthwhile point to talk about through everything I do. So those are some tips. I know you guys probably have a lot of tips as well. If you have any questions, I want to take your questions. I don't want to just talk. I want to hear from you guys. So if you have any questions or if you have any tips, just write them on in the little space bar there. This is the way I type. Go ahead. If you have ideas for things you want me to talk about, just email me, Kathy, Kathy, at keepingithuman.com, or send me something on Twitter at Kathy Klotz-Guest. I want to make this productive for you so you can get good stuff out of it. And yeah, so anything you are interested in talking about, just let me know. I'll give you guys a minute. So if there's any questions or anything you want me to answer, this is your time. So you tell me. I feel like there should be music here while people type. And that's okay. Maybe you don't have questions. No worries. All right, everybody. That's it for me. We're gonna do these. Oh my gosh, thank you, Narina. It's so great to have you. It's so good to see you. Let me know if you got stuff you want me to talk about. I'm always happy to listen. We're gonna do these Tuesdays and Fridays. And coming up from Social Media Marketing World, next month I'll be there. I'll be periscoping live and hoping to bring you some really interesting stuff from some of the speakers. I'll be on a panel on storytelling, and so hopefully I'll be able to do some periscopes with some pretty cool people. So, all right, everybody, have a wonderful, wonderful Tuesday. We will see you later. Take care. Bye-bye. Love you back.